All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a really powerful idea from a Hollywood producer, a guy named Brant Pinvedek. Now, this guy has sold over 300 TV shows and movies, so he knows a thing or two about getting a yes. And out of all that experience, he came up with this one simple, almost shockingly simple rule. He calls it the 3-minute rule.
Yeah, 3 minutes. That's it. That's the entire window. You get to pitch, well, anything. Your business, your new product, that passion project you've been working on forever. Sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? Almost impossible.
I mean, really think about that. Your best idea, the most important, most complex thing you've got. Could you actually sell it? Get someone to say yes in just 180 seconds? Because here's the kicker. According to this rule, that's all the time you're ever going to get.
So, to really get why this is so critical, we have to start with this concept he calls the 3-minute cliff. And yeah, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, a harsh reality check on modern attention spans.
You know, for the longest time, the advice for a big pitch was always go long. Build this massive hour-long presentation, pack it with every single detail, every chart, all the gimmicks and fluff. But what we're learning is that this approach is completely backward. In today's world, where we're just drowning in information, the new rule is all about being clear, concise, and just ruthlessly efficient.
And here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. Your audience, doesn't matter if it's your boss or a room full of investors, they make up their mind, that gut level yes or no, inside those first 3 minutes. Everything else you say, all that other stuff, it's all filtered through that first impression. So if they're already leaning no at minute 3, the next 57 minutes are just you talking to a brick wall.
But wait, it gets even more important than that. See, this isn't just about convincing the people who are right there in the room with you. It's about what happens the moment you walk out that door.
And that brings us to this idea of the second pitch. Think about it. The person you're pitching to, they're almost never the only person who has to approve it. They have to turn around and sell your idea to their own people. You know, the finance department, the legal team, their own boss. Your pitch has to be so simple and clear that it can survive being retold by someone else.
And this is exactly where those big, long pitches just totally fall apart. Right? So imagine you do your brilliant 1-hour presentation. The room loves it, they're clapping, but then later that day, the person who loved your idea bumps into, Jerry from legal by the coffee machine. They can't possibly repeat your hour-long masterpiece, so what do? They give this mangled 3-minute summary with all the wrong details. Jerry just gets confused, maybe a little annoyed, and says, "Nah, sounds complicated." And just like that, poof, your idea's dead. But a simple, powerful 3-minute version, that's something they could have repeated perfectly in that hallway.
Okay, so the big question is, how on earth do you boil everything down to just 3 minutes? And the secret isn't about talking faster or trying to cram everything in. Nope. It's about being incredibly selective. It's about answering only the most critical, foundational questions.
And for that, Pinvedek gives us something called the WAC framework. It's an acronym, WAC. The idea is that your entire pitch has to be built on answering just 4 questions. That's it. What is it? How does it work? Are you sure? And the last one, can you do it? This is like the unbreakable logical skeleton of your pitch.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just some vague theory. He gets super specific. You're aiming for a grand total of 25 sentences to tell your whole story, and you can see how they're broken down here. What's really wild is that last question, can you do it? Your credentials, why you're the one. That's just one sentence. It's not about a long resume. It's just that final, confident checkmark to seal the deal.
So when you're trying to figure out what goes into those 25 sentences, you have to remember one golden rule. Your job isn't just to be accurate. Your job is to be interesting. You have to look at all your facts and ask, what is the most compelling, most notable piece of information for this specific audience? Being correct is just the entry fee. Being interesting is what actually gets you the yes.
Here's a perfect example. When he was pitching a show called Pirate Master, the premise was basically just survivor on a boat. Kinda cool, but not a game changer. But for the TV network executives he was pitching to, that wasn't the most interesting part. The most interesting part was this little detail. It was the brand new idea from Mark Burnett, the guy who created Survivor and The Apprentice.
For them, that name was everything. That was the hook. They didn't need to hear much else.
Okay, so you've got your logical framework, the WH. That's the skeleton. But, nobody falls in love with a skeleton. You've got to put some meat on those bones. You need to wrap that logic in a story that makes it stick, that makes people actually feel something.
And to do that, he gives us a few key storytelling elements. Think of these as your tools for turning a dry list of facts into a real story that builds trust and gets people genuinely excited.
So, first up is the opening. This is your why. It's the short story of your personal aha moment. For example, when he pitched the show Bar Rescue, his opening was about the moment he realized the host, John Taffer, wasn't just some loud TV personality. He had this incredible, deep expertise to back it all up. That was the why.
Then, later in your pitch, you bring in something called the callback. This is the perfect little anecdote that proves your aha moment was right all along. For Pinvid, it was the story that completely sealed the deal for him on John Taffer's genius.
And just listen to this story. It's absolutely brilliant. While Taffer was looking at a bar's floor plan, he pointed to a hallway and called it a butt funnel. A butt funnel. He explained it's a corridor that's intentionally designed to be so narrow that people kind of have to brush past each other. And why? Because it boosts endorphins and creates this friendly, intimate, even sexually charged atmosphere. I mean, come on. That one kind of weird detail is all the proof you need that this guy is an absolute expert. You'll never forget that, right?
All right, this next one takes some guts. It's called the all is lost moment. And this is where you bring up the biggest problem with your idea, the one flaw you're secretly hoping they won't notice. But by bringing it up yourself, you do something amazing. You totally disarm them. You build massive credibility, and you get to control the story around that weakness instead of letting them discover it on their own.
And then there's the hook and the edge. These two work together. The hook is the single, coolest, most wow factor about what you're doing. And the edge is the short, punchy story that proves it. So for a plumbing company, the hook might be, we have a new technology that makes repiping a house a simple, one-day job. Cool, right? But the edge, that's the story. We once repiped an entire hotel without a single guest having to check out. Now that is a story that sells.
Okay, let's put it all together. Because it's not just about having these pieces. It's about assembling them in the right order. There's a final blueprint that combines all the logic and all the story for maximum impact. And here it is. This is the sequence. You kick things off with your opening. That's your why. Then you lay out the solid logic, the WHA framework. Right after that, you hit them with the all is lost moment to build that incredible trust. Then you get them excited with your hook and your edge. You drive the point home with that unforgettable callback story. And you close it out with that final, simple sentence. Can you do it? Yes, you can.
So in the end, this whole 3-minute rule thing, it's not about being a fast talker. Not at all. It's a discipline. It's about focus. It forces you to cut through all the noise, find the absolute core of your idea, and then tell that story in a way that's so clear and so compelling they'll never, ever forget it.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you have an idea you truly believe in, just remember, the clock is already ticking. Your 3 minutes are starting right now. What are you going to say?